Hello, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to the course Learn C++ the Modern Way. So the point of this lecture is really to explain why I created this course and how it is different from all the other courses on Udemy and various other places. So let's start off by learning C++ the not very modern way. So in fact you would actually start by learning a quite different language C, which C++ evolved from. But it does have a very different way of doing things. For example, you'll get thrown pretty quickly into doing lots of low-level coding with arrays and pointers. So to understand all this, you have to think like a computer, which is not something that comes naturally to most people. So it's difficult to understand. The syntax looks pretty awful, so it's difficult to read, and it's even harder to type correctly. And in C++, you do, unfortunately, need to type things correctly. And also it's very easy to make mistakes, to be off by one in your array indexes. And if you do that, your program is going to crash or you get weird results. So after you've had all this beaten into you, then you have to unlearn it all and add C++ features. And then on the final, right at the end of the course, when you've been in a bit of a whirlwind, they say, oh, by the way, you can use vector and string, which are much easier. So why not do it the other way around? Why not teach the easy stuff at the beginning and the difficult stuff at the end? So that's my theory anyway. So if you do have the misfortune of learning C++ the traditional way, you'll probably find it's a pretty difficult and demoralizing experience. I know I certainly did. Many students give up. I'm not quite sure why I didn't actually, but well, I sort of did, but kept coming back to it. I wouldn't be beaten. And this leads to the widespread belief that C++ is too hard. And those people who do make it through this process of attrition have not been taught well. They've not been given a good understanding of the language. They've had emphasis on all the wrong features, and they haven't been taught how to use it well. So what is modern C++? Well, this is the other side of the Learn C++ the modern way. It's not just the teaching method which is modern, but also the content. C++ was substantially revised in 2011, and lots of new features and improvements were added. These made it easier to use and easier to write safe code. C++ I don't think is no harder to learn and use than any other modern comparable programming language. I mean, obviously it is quite technical, so it's not going to be easy, but it's certainly not any more difficult than any other programming language. However, in spite of all this, most courses are still stuck in 1998, teaching the version from a previous century. I mean, looking at 1998, there are probably people watching this who weren't born then. So about this course, I've completely torn up the textbook on how to teach C++ and rewritten it myself. I've spent 6 months doing that. It teaches C++ from the beginning, so we don't teach you C and then unteach it. The course is based on modern C++, so 2011 and later. Concepts are introduced in a logical order, so we start at the beginning and sort of gradually build things up. Because C++ evolved from C, a lot of courses start by teaching C, then every time a new C++ feature was added, they stuck it on the end of the C course. So you just got this great long list of things that weren't in any logical order. So no, this is going to be actually done logically. So the features of the course: we relate C++ programming to the basic structure and functioning of the computer. So with C++, you do need to have some awareness of the abstract machinery beneath it. You don't need to be a computer hardware engineer, but having some idea of what's happening does help. I try to explain everything in simple terms. Obviously, every profession or occupation or job has its jargon, and software development is one of them, and C++ is particularly has quite a lot of obscure jargon, but I'm going to try and avoid that and not use it until I've explained it. And also I try to find simple ways of explaining things. I don't just throw lots of abstractions for you and expect you to be able to work them out. Graphics. A lot of C++ books and courses seem allergic to graphics. I don't know if they had a bad experience with a cartoon or something, but I've put graphics in here to try and help get the concepts across. I'm not a graphic designer, so they're not brilliant, but I think they're a lot better than nothing. A lot of the concepts in C++ are quite abstract, so if you are trying to visualize them, that will use up a lot of cognitive processing, so it doesn't leave very much over for actually understanding the language concept. So if you're trying to visualize what a block of memory moving around looks like, you're not really going to be able to have much brain power left over for thinking about what this actually means. The course is designed to be interactive, so there's plenty of quizzes and exercises you can do along the way to help improve your understanding of the course and find out how well you're learning the material. There are quizzes and exercises. The way it works is that each lecture has one video and one slide of exercises, and the slides in the video correspond to the slides in the exercise. So there's almost always one exercise for every slide in the video. Some of these are quizzes and some of these are programming exercises. And finally, I don't just teach language features, I try to teach you how to program. I try to explain why things are in the language and show you some useful tricks. Okay, so what will you be able to do when you've finished all this? So you should be able to program competently in C++. There are courses in science, engineering, computer science, which sometimes require C++ programming knowledge as a prerequisite, or perhaps if you're applying for a university degree, it might be useful to show that you've got some experience to help your application. You can apply for a job as a C++ programmer. If you don't have any previous experience, it probably is going to be at a junior level, which means fixing small bugs or adding small features, but you can work up from there. This course on its own may not be enough to actually get you in there because it doesn't cover all the things that application developers need to know, but there is another course in the pipeline which should more than qualify you for applying for jobs. Obviously, when you apply for a job, it does depend to you on some extent what skills you have and how you get on with the people there, what sort of personal qualities you have. And you can also write your own applications to do something interesting. I mean, don't necessarily go off and write a 3D multiplayer blockbuster game because it's going to be pretty complicated and it'll probably collapse under its own weight and you'll just lose track of the program. But I mean, you can write programs to solve things like maths problems or maybe some sort of data analysis if you have a log file or something you want to process. So again, I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to be a millionaire after you do this course, or even that you might make any money from writing applications, but it is one of the possibilities that, again, it depends on you and what you do and how well you do it. So when you complete the course, you should be familiar with modern C++ techniques, so that means 2011 and onwards, while still being aware of older alternatives which are widely used, not just for old code which is still being maintained, but also quite a few people are still writing code the old way. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.